Food and agriculture production systems are facing unprecedented challenges from an increasing demand for food for our growing population, rising hunger, malnutrition, adverse climate change effects, overexploitation of natural resources, loss of biodiversity, food loss and waste. These challenges can undermine the capacity to meet its food needs now and in the future. In other words, fewer people have adequate access to enough nutritious food. Nigeria, like every other nation, faces a double burden of malnutrition, with both undernutrition and obesity recognized as a major health issue for the country. These are also challenges related to post-harvest losses and food safety. This, among other factors, has brought us to our topic for today on the program Agric Today, which is food sustainability focus on FCT intervention. I am your host, Amin Khadija Oluwatoyin. Let's take a quick break before we return and then bring you our interview segment, which has the Mandate Secretary of the Agricultural and Rural Development Secretariat of the FCT. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this interview segment.
Food sustainability is so important, yet our world wastes nearly half of all the food we produce. In this video, we'll be covering the real problem and 7 things we can do to help. Here we go. The agricultural industry is the largest industry in the world, yet it's also one of the most wasteful. Over 45% of all produce is lost or wasted along the cold chain each and every year. That's over $700 billion worth of food wasted every year. That wastage in storage and transport turns into rot and creates a larger carbon footprint than the entire airline industry. And it doesn't stop there. The loss extends far beyond produce itself and includes labour, time, money, energy and water. For example, nearly 30% of the world's water is being used to irrigate farms for food that often never arrives to its destination. Agriculture and food now accounts for nearly 30% of all goods transported on our roads. This alone causes billions of unnecessary carbon emissions. When we buy from local suppliers, it means a lot less miles on the road and a lot less carbon emissions. And it also means fresher food for us. By supporting local providers, we help build locally, which can be helpful in case a food crisis does occur. Number 2, buy from sustainable suppliers. Instead of thinking you have to research every brand, tell yourself you're just going to make one change. For instance, if you live in America, this could be deciding to support local or only buying from supermarkets that only source sustainable products like Whole Foods. Number 3, products not to buy. A lot of products are just not sustainable, no matter where you buy them from. So check your weekly shopping list for your commonly purchased items. Maybe write down the top 10 and see if they are destructive. For instance, according to the Sustainable Restaurant Association, it takes over 6,000 litres of water to produce 1 litre of almond milk. That's about 10 times the size of a spa pool. Yet you can make your own at home for around 2 litres of water. This is why so many coffee shops around the world do not sell almond milk anymore, or at least try to make it themselves. cereal, and soda are also some of the most purchased items, yet the biggest wasters of waters in the world. Water is essential for food production, and in some cases, by only taking out 1 or 2 items from your list, you can halve your water consumption. For more information about water sustainability, we actually did a video on that right here. Number 4 is store correctly. Nearly 33% of all produce is thrown away at the customer end. Learning how to store correctly will save you money, save the environment, and ensure you have enough time to eat the produce you purchased. So, what can help with this? Write a list of the things you buy the most and learn how to store them properly. For more on how to store produce correctly and have an entire list of every fruit, its benefits, and how to store them in the fridge, check out all these videos we did here. Next up is organize your fridge correctly. Organising your fridge will make it less likely to lose items only to find them at a later date when they're far past the use-by date. It also helps allow to circulate air better, which makes produce last longer and saves power. Most fridges circulate air and temperature, depending on the area within inside the fridge. For instance, you should have your fruit and vegetables in the crisper, but separate from other produce so they don't ripen as fast. Having them in crisper also means when someone opens the fridge, less oxygen gets into that little bit there, which again makes the produce last that much longer. Next up is get a sustainable fridge, if you can. A lot of fridges these days have been proven to make produce last longer. I'll put a link below to the top energy efficient and produce saving fridges below. Next up is ethylene absorbers. These little tea-sized bags can be thrown into your crisper and absorb ethylene, which allows produce not to ripen as quickly, allowing you to have more time to eat them. There's also another one called Blue Apple, which in some cases has helped produce last up to 3 months longer. Speaking of storage, the very last point for this is use Tupperware. There is nothing like having last night's dinner for lunch the next day, and one of the easiest ways to waste less food is by storing it correctly. Number 5 is use smaller portion sizes. My mum used to say that I had to eat everything on my plate, and to this day I always do. One university in America found that by changing plate sizes, the students ate a lot less. Portion sizes can not only help us be a lot healthier and have more energy, but also help us live longer and ultimately help others live longer as well, as it's more efficient for the planet. So why not try smaller plates for lunch or dinner? Personally, I downsized my coffee mug and my dessert bowl to encourage myself to drink less coffee and have less sweets. I also bought a larger water bottle to encourage myself to drink more water. What's something you have done at home? Let me know below. I want to hear from you. Number 6 is composting. Did you know that 1/3 of all global landfill is food? Yes, and one of the biggest ways we can reduce our food waste is by reusing it through composting. The easiest way to do this is to have a 3-tiered bin that has food, paper plastics, and other. I personally found if you have a separate bin, or if the bin's too far away from where your food scraps are gonna be, people just don't end up using it. When it's right next to each other, it's really easy. Little systems like this can make it so much easier to be sustainable. Once you've got your food scraps, take them outside to your bin where you can compost them. If you don't like composting or just don't want to do it in general, there are actually companies all around the world that can do it for you now, including rotating worms to help the compost speed up. Companies like Y-Waste in New Zealand, but I'll link to some other ones down below. And last but not least is number 7, grow your own food. Yes, we all knew this point was coming. If you have a balcony or land, you can grow your own food. Heck, even if you just have a sidewalk like the urban gangster, you can grow your own food. Having alternative food sources, even just a tiny amount, means that you'll have the resources and the knowledge to produce more food for yourself and your family if a food crisis does occur.
It's still the program Agric Today, and the topic, like I said earlier, is food sustainability, focus on FCT intervention. And our interviewee for the week is the Mandate Secretary, FCT, in the person of Malam Ibrahim Abubakar. Malam Abubakar spoke extensively on the interventions of the Secretariat on different forms of agriculture. He spoke on fishery, from seedlings, improved seedlings, and so many aspects where the FCT is actually coming to see that there is food sustainability for the FCT residents. Let's hear from him.
LDS has recorded a lot of success. Let me start with the fisheries and aquaculture. Now, under fishery and aquaculture, just about a week ago, we trained over 700 women and youth into tilapia fish farming. Before, our focus was only on one particular fish farming. So we decided to introduce another one, that is tilapia fish farming. It was a very successful one. Starter packs has been given to the trainees, and the trainees came across the 6 area councils of the FCTA. That is one. If you look at animal husbandry services, in our grazing reserve, when we came on board, we are in partnership with Nestle Foods Nigeria Limited. The milk collection was less than 1,000 liters per day. Now we increased the number of tanks. They are collecting 3,000 liters of milk per day from our local pastoralists. A lot of community development projects were executed to them by our partners Nestle and CBI. If you look at another area is Padama NG Cares program, where about over 500 women and youth were given farming tools and implements, ranging from fertilizers, from pumping machines, from seeds, from seedlings and other things. So generally speaking, the Secretariat is doing very well. Our revenue has increased because of some areas that we touch, and then our engagement with our partners is yielding very good results. So we are doing a great job. So far so good. We received so many recommendations from many individuals and private organizations. To be honest with you, if you look at the number of the last training fisheries did, out of 700, 520 are women. They are all women. 520. I was asking them questions. I said, oh, maybe I have to go and start talking to your husbands, that they should know what you people are doing. So, FCTA is like a state. A projection will be given to you, which you work on that. So I cannot tell you the figures, but I know I have already passed. By July this year, we have already passed our target. Our target is to see how we can increase the number of the amount of production from the FCTA. Like maize you mentioned, our main focus is on maize and rice, which we are trying our best to put everything in place to make sure that by next year we'll triple our production on maize and rice. This year, because of some procurement challenges, we receive our inputs very late. Right now we have the fertilizer, we have the non-fertilizer inputs, but the problem is that we cannot distribute it to farmers right now because we are in August. There is no way you give a farmer fertilizer in August, or you can give him a seed in August. Already they have gone far, and then we are monitoring their activities with the little support we can render to them. But we are doing a lot of preparations for dry season farming, which I believe from there Nigerians will see the change we are talking about. Our production will increase there is no two way about it. From the dry season farming to the next year's rainy season farming, all things are in place, just waiting for the time to come. But for the remaining time we have now for this year's rainy season, we'll continue to monitor their activities, give them the guidance and the little support we can render to them so that they will have a very good harvest. And then we are putting all measures to protect them from first harvest loss. You see, the poultry farming is one area that we are doing very bad. I may not lie to you. But we have a new head that is heading that division. I give him 4 weeks to come off with all the necessary modalities that we can use to make sure we address all these challenges you just mentioned. So for now, I'm waiting for the report. Once I have that report, we'll take it off. Inshallah, we'll address all these challenges.
Okay, so finally from my end, we learned that there are some forest reserve under you. Can you talk to us about this? Can you tell us?
Yes, you know, Abuja is an urban city, and thank God it has a very good design. All these forest reserve, grazing reserve were gazetted. So we have our forest reserve. Now, this issue of forest reserve, for example, if you look at Kuje forest plantation, from that time to now, over 30 years ago, the development has reached that place. So it's no longer a forest that it used to be. A lot of people have cut some of the trees, you know. Now we are trying to see how we can redesign it into a modernized way. Let's say a forest plantation where people can go with their children during weekends, you know, to sit down and relax, or something like that. We have Guagua, we have another one in Jua. What we are doing now is to fence all of them so that nobody will encroach there. We are trying to protect them first because it's important to preserve our history and culture. So these forests are part of FCT history. We cannot allow them to go. For now, I don't think what is coming on is a good one. For now, because the farmers need the rains right now. And then if you look at the farms, you will see they are in good shape. Everything is growing without even putting much fertilizer. You see your crop just move off quickly. So, but if the thing continue from now to end of this month, then definitely we are going to encounter a problem because there are limits to where we expect these rains to come. From the beginning of planting the seed. That's why, if you remember, last time you came here, I told you our farmers are working with the NIMET people with their expert ideas and guidance, which I believe in FCT will not encounter this problem. We know from May to June the amount of rain we're expecting based on their projection. From July to August, we are aware of that, and they have educated our farmers. And majority of them I have the knowledge of this. So only few of them that decided to do it in their own way that will be affected. Yes, the right crops has been planted at the right time to avoid all this kind of confusion. They give us their report weekly. They give us their report weekly, and I think it's a good one. Based on what we received in the last 2 months, it's still good. it will not affect us that much in FCT. In whatever we are doing, women are involved. We carry them along. We give them priority. And you know the Honorable Minister of State. I don't need to tell you much. You know her very well, how she carry women activities on her head. She is the advocate of whatever we are doing, we should give women a priority. And all this achievement we recorded is her own passion and approval. Whatever we took to her for approval, she gradually approved for us to carry out our activities.
With all said and done by the Managing Secretary, the Agricultural Promotion Policy have identified food as a human right, compelling the government to protect Nigerians from hunger and malnutrition. Nutrition-sensitive agriculture is mentioned as one of the ways to address issues of stunting, wasting, and underweight in the country, and this is the core mandate of the Agricultural and Rural Development Ministry, under the auspices of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. On that note, we wrap it up on today's episode of the program Agric Today. I remain your host, Amin Khadija Oluwatoyin. Don't forget to like our YouTube page and of course subscribe so that you can get notifications when we have our new episodes of this program and many other entertaining programs we have here on ARCN. Stay tuned. Ciao, ciao.